Right, I'm going to tie a big bright beadhead. Been watching several videos on YouTube, different people tying a lot of beadhead nymph type flies. And just thought I would chime in, but this is a pretty big one. I'm just going to make it pretty bright, big and heavy. I'll put in some lead. I've got a beadhead already, so it's going to be heavy anyway, but I'm going to put in some lead also. Sometimes on this channel I try to tie things that are well-known flies, and sometimes I just try to make up some stuff that is interesting to me. In this case I wanted to do something like a beadhead something, and I just remembered these bright feathers and bright thread that I have, and I thought it would be fun to make something out of that stuff, try to use it, because I've had it for a long time and I don't often tie flies with those colors. I'm just going to wrap this and go ahead and go all the way up to the bead. This is going to give it weight, but it's also going to give it, it's going to keep that bead from moving around too much, and it's also going to give it some shape. So hopefully it's not too hard to cast. Just going to go ahead and use the rest of that lead. That is a lot of lead, but that's fine. I might find that I just made it way too heavy, that I'll never use it. And that would be fine too. I've got a lot of flies that I use once or twice or never. So I'll try to fill that in so it doesn't move around too much. So I have a good taper going. I'm going to coat this with a little bit of clear nail polish, just so it helps fill in the gaps and helps it not move. Just going to lock it down a little bit. This is this nail polish is just a couple of bucks at Target, and then I took the bristles out and put in a needle so that I could get into tighter spots. I think I just got some on the bead head, but that's okay. Maybe a little drop. All right, so I'm going to tie with, I've got these bright green feathers. I've got this pink thread, and I'm going to utilize those two for the fly today. I get a good size feather here. Oh, I got two. And I'm going to pull off these fluffies down at the bottom, and I'm going to use those for the tail. It's almost like a marabou. Start with that clump. These these feather packs can be a little bit, I guess, oily. So it makes the feathers sometimes look like bedhead when you haven't showered a couple of days, like when you camp or something. So I'm going to try to, well, it'll clean itself up whenever you fish with it. Eventually it'll look better. Get rid of some of that extra junk. I may have to go back to the feathers and get more, because that's a pretty sparse tail for this, but just tie that in. And I've started it kind of behind that lead, so I should be fine for the shape. And I can always trim that off so it's a little less stringy. Get another little clump here. This will help it give more body. Yeah, there we go. So this is kind of a cross between, I guess, a woolly booger and a beadhead. Because it'll be something you can swim when you fish it, and it could also be something that you just let kind of dangle. Take some of these off so they're more uniform. I might still cut those. Anyway, all right. So next I want to tie in. Oh God, this is something I gathered actually at Home Depot. I've had a video before of this, but I don't know what I did with them. I had a bunch of strands of those. There's my mess. And here's a piece of it. So this stuff right here, you find it wrapped around the 2x2s and the 1x2s, 1x3s. It's kind of junk wood, and you'll find those that as strapping to wrap them into clumps of 9 or 12 or whatever it is. And so basically I just unravel it and pull out a strand of it and use it for fly tying. I like to do flies with found materials, things that you don't typically find or buy at a fly shop. Just trying to get some threads in where these gaps are a little bit lumpy. Come right down to it right there. And then I'll also want to tie in some flash. This is pretty hefty flash-a-boo, but it'll work. When I first started fly tying, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I bought a bunch of stuff. This is one of the things that I bought, and I've used it a couple of times. And the thing is, it's meant for saltwater, and so it's a little bit wide, but it's this iridescent stuff, and you can see how wide that is. Got a good flash to it though, and I think if I put this over the pink, wrap it in, I think it'll be good. So let me go ahead and tie this in. So I'm going to wrap this forward. I'm going to take this to about there, about halfway down the fly, and then I'll do some dubbing, make a wing casing and all that good stuff. So I'll start with the pink. I'm just going to make several wraps of this just to cover this white thread. It's going to be a little bit lumpy, but I might be able to fill in some gaps with it. Just kind of taper it up. This would be a great time to have one of those hooks that hold your materials out of the way. Okay, I think that's good right there. Man, it's a pretty smooth body right there. Kind of like that. It's a smooth criminal. Boom, 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 boom. My scissors don't cut anything because they are dull. Sorry. That's what I do. I break into song. I'm going to take this and just wrap it. That's kind of cool. Just want these turns to be a little bit spaced. I may have to follow this up with some nail polish because that pink is slick stuff. I need to wrap this to the top because I need to use that for wing casing. Right there. Okay. Now, I can reuse one of these feathers I pulled off earlier. Hopefully that was recording all that time. My battery light came on. I'm going to strip this back. And then I'm going to pull this forward about as wide as my space is there. About there. Doesn't really matter how that looks. I just needed to trim that off so I can use this. What I'll do is tie this on over the top of that. Make sure it's centered on top. Now, this is where I've got to be a little more tricky because I need dubbing. So I'm going to dub this with some feather barbs. Okay, I'm going to take this back where I started in the middle. I'm going to wax my thread. think this thread is already waxed, but I'll wax a little more. This is pretty heavy thread, by the way. This is Danville's, waxed monocord for, I think it's meant for tying large, like, saltwater flies. So, anyway. So what I'm going to do is just strip these off, strip all this off, but I'm going to hang on to it. I maybe should have cut it off instead of stripping it off, because it's going to be big pieces curled up on the ends, but this is enough to do dubbing. Yeah, I'm going to do that again with a different feather, because when I peeled those off, it peeled off some of the shaft of the feather, which is going to make it for real not pretty dubbing. So I'm going to take this, all this pretty dubbing, and snip it off. Just let it fall to my desk and I'll pick it up and use it. Terribly dull scissors. Don't ever use your good scissors to cut any wire or any bead chain or anything like that, because it just really dulls. These aren't great scissors anyway. These are, I think, beard trimmers and mustache trimmers, but they're what I had, and now they don't cut for nothing. I need to cut against the grain. That'll help. Okay. I've got lots of dubbing laying on my desk. So I'm just going to pick this stuff up. I realized there might have been other ways I could have done this, but I don't have a lot of dubbing. And I don't have a lot of dubbing materials, so I just use whatever I could find. So here is some dubbing material. I'm just going to twist this onto the string. Nice and heavy. Just dub it on. It's a very chunky dub. I can always come back and pull it out and trim it up. It's very fluffy, but it's okay. Make a couple of turns back into it here, just to help tie it down. A couple of turns behind the head. I'll leave that there. What I'm going to do is take this. So what I've got left over is my iridescent flash and this feather here. I'm going to take this feather and pull it forward. Tie that off. Where'd my dull scissors go? There. Okay, there's that. So what I have here is now that I have some legs going to both sides. It's fairly centered. And now I'm just going to take this dubbing, or this, this flash, come right over the center of this. strong turns there. And then I can actually dub a little bit more if I can find some here on my desk. Just a touch. Just a skosh, as they say. Alright, so a little bit more wax. A little bit of dubbing. It's probably too much. Beautiful thing about dubbing is you can always fluff it out and cut it off. So just a couple turns there. Enough. Put a little bit of my head cement / nail polish on the thread. And I'll just make it so I don't have to add the stuff in afterwards. I just put my couple of thread wraps. Tie that off. And when I snip it, it's already painted up. Somewhere on my messy desk, I have I'll use my bodkin. So I've got a bodkin. Used a X-Acto knife. Took the blade out, put in a needle, and I'm just going to take this and kind of pick out some of this. Get off some of that extra. No, I need to find that brush. There it is. My stuff stuck to it. See, when you have a brush that has Velcro on the end, and you have a bunch of materials that are good for dubbing, you end up with a bunch of materials that stick to Velcro really well. Okay, sorry about that. Alright, there's my beard brush with Velcro on the end. And I'm just going to pull these back a little bit. Turn this over. So I do have just a little bit here that I want to trim, but for the most part it's good. Okay, pretty good right there. So it's kind of crazy from the top, and when you turn it to the side, it still looks a little crazy. But I don't like this shape here. Still don't like it very much, but it's going to be what it's going to be. It's a little bit like an airplane. I'm going to take this back and snip off the end too. might still be too much, but it's kind of funky. It's a little off center. I would like to have had that a little more centered. Might still be able to get it over there. That's a little better. Anyway, let me turn this light down a little bit. Not too much. Oh, I can make it glow. Watch this. A little different light. It's pretty cool. Okay. It's a little bit crazy. A little bit fun. It's worth a try. Hope you enjoyed it.